one would imagine.
Oh boy, the next news item. I've just seen what's next on our list.
Yeah. Are we ready?
It's our favourite topic.
Tariff
talk.
Oh, dear. Oh, there's been an update on tariffs, and it's not a good update, sadly. It's a bad update. Yes.
It's a bad
update. I called it a down date, not an update. Update sounds positive. It's a down date. So the US has just announced a bigger change in how they're handling tariffs. So, Jess, do you want to talk a bit about this? Tell the good folks at home, what is the de minimis exception?
So, in layman's terms, de minimis is pretty much if you're shipping something, say I'm posting something from the UK to the US, if its value is worth below X amount of money, it doesn't get taxes and tariffs on. And different countries, a lot of countries have this, and it's different rules for different countries. So some are like, oh, if it's less than 1,000 in value, don't worry about it. And generally that's because countries don't want to process lots of tiny packages. They're mostly doing big port shipments. This was the case in the US, that shipments worth less than $800 weren't subject to tariffs and taxes and things. So that meant me as a publisher, if I from the UK was sending you a single board game that was presuming it was less than $800, which it would be, that would be fine. You wouldn't get taxed and things would be happy. However, the de minimis exception has been ended, and now tariffs do apply to shipments that are worth less than $800. So this means if I, with my board game that was manufactured, say in the UK, and is shipped from the UK to the US, will have tax and tariffs applied to it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this was done mainly because, it was mainly targeted at those $7 t-shirts that you're buying from China. That's kind of why they've done it. But obviously everything else in the entire world applies to everything else in the entire world as well, including
so that will games. Obviously that affects the wider industry, but that's how it affects the game industry. And if we remember, when we've been talking about tariffs, a lot of board games and tabletop games that include miniatures, complex plastic components are made in China and places like that. And so that greatly affects them, because if something is manufactured in China, even if I then ship it to us in the UK, to our UK warehouse, and send it out from the UK to the US, because it's manufactured in China, the tariffs for China are applied to that product because it's where the product is made, not where it's being posted from.
Unless, of course, you change the label on the package to pretend that it came originally from the UK, in which case you go to prison for fraud.
Yes, as I said, that is fraud. Because I've had some people online saying, "Why don't you just do this?" And it's like, because that's fraud. Like, why? That's like saying, "Why don't you just start selling cocaine?" It's like, because it's illegal. Like, you might make more money if you sell coke. Because that is illegal, and I won't do that.
We do not wish to go to prison.
I wouldn't do well in prison. Like,
no, I get that.
So there is some nuance to this. The good news is probably it won't affect you as much as you think it will when you first hear that, because most of the board games and boxed sets and things like that, and dice and all that sort of stuff that US people in the US are buying aren't shipped directly to them from another country. They have been shipped into the US en masse via a big sort of like a big pallet of them, and the importer is already paying a tariff on that, so nothing's really changed there, and then they're just forwarding it to you from a US based warehouse.
Yes, so if it has domestic shipping, you won't get the bill.
So it would hit though very, very small creators who don't have a warehouse in the US and don't have a US distributor or fulfillment partner, who are just basically selling something maybe on Itch, or Itch
doesn't do print on demand. It's
I mean,
Drive for RPG, they print inside. So I think it's if you've done an offset printing run and are shipping into the US.
But Drive through RPG will print in the US and then ship to you in the US, so it won't affect you. But small creators that are sort of like someone in, say, France or the UK or China or wherever.
Mid-sized creators that aren't
Yeah.
using print-on-demand facilities
Who are basically
across the world.
making small things and then sending them to people around the world. It's going to affect those products.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe my spies tell me that if it is an informational text, such as, say, an actual just a book or something, then it should theoretically be 0 rated and not have to pay.
Well, that was the next bit. Yeah, books.
Yes.
As yet, there were no tariffs on books.
Yes.
There haven't ever been. There still aren't. As as we speak.
Who knows? But it is Friday. Who knows what Fresh Hell the week will bring?
It is but Friday, but there are discussions about whether role-playing games count as a book or like a gaming accessory, and they are classified as different products in like.
So far, nobody's experienced any difficulty with
this. But people like me that do my job are very much meerkatting the horizon to check that's not the case, because if that becomes the case, it changes things greatly. So if you're ordering a tabletop role-playing game that is purely a book, this shouldn't impact you. But if you have something that's got like dice attached or even a GM screen or something like that, that could impact you, and it's likely to impact you purely for crowdfunding products where the person has already made their things and are about to fulfill. That might hit you then, but it's not the creator or the publisher's fault. So remember that if you're dealing with this.
Yeah, it's really hitting the mid-range people very hard, squeezing out the middle, because micro creators like me.
I don't think it's much change for the mid-range people, because the mid-range people will already be shipping them pallets of them into the US, or they're already paying tariffs. There's no change for them really. It's the small people who are sending individual orders. That's the people that will affect.
I think that this is where we really need to create a shared vocabulary in TTRPG, because if you're shipping pallets of books to the US for redistribution, I would challenge your description has mid-range. I would say you're one of the bigger companies at that point.
I'd say you're probably still quite small.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I compare us, say, to Wizard of the Coast, not even on the same scale, like exponentially larger,
Or someone like Chaosium, for example.
Yeah. And arguing that these are mid-range creators is only possible if you include the significant statistical outlier, which is Hasbro. If you do what is good statistical practice and say, okay, we'll exclude the massive outlier, then suddenly it all becomes a much more usable data. Because otherwise it's like, here is one giant peak at one end, and here's a little tiny peak at the other, and that's Hasbro sales at this giant peak, and here at the other end is everything else. Anyway, sorry.
Herman Duca says, you are not tiny. Well, we are tiny. We've got 2 employees, me and Jess. The only way we could be tinier than we are is if one of us left.
Or you went part-time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just can't get any tinier, because otherwise their clothes won't fit.
I know. No one will be able to see me. I'm only 5 foot tall.
Yeah. You're a bit,
the view from this podcast would just...
For listeners at home, Jessica has ducked her camera low so we can just see the charming gold band of her headphones.
What a fun bit of visual comedy for the podcast listeners.